I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet. And I encourage everybody, you could also, that are listening via audio, you could listen and follow us on YouTube or sometimes live on Rumble, and sometimes catch 40 seconds before the show where we have no idea what we're saying. And here with Golan and Guy, and it's interesting. What we're actually talking about, in the interest of full disclosure, is if you go on Rumble, I would imagine if you would go on YouTube right now, you'd see the same shows. There's this show called Unredacted with what's the guy's name? He was a Clayton douchebag, and he's Tucker's latest guest, and he's got his own show, but he's talking with that other. It's like this circle jerk right now.
That's all it ever is.
No. We've never witnessed this in our lives. And this is something. It's like, remember how I said no? When Israel and Gaza, like I will be glad for the day that we could stop talking about Israel and Gaza. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did I say, I pray this is out of the news? We all know that President Trump, a big reason him and Bibi worked out this fakakta deal was for this to stop and get it out of the news and save that, thank God, the hostages. Go on. But it won't stop. They've moved the goalposts.
It won't stop because they won't let it stop, because Qatar doesn't want it to stop. Iran doesn't want it to stop. And those are the benefactors of the people China doesn't want it to stop. Russia doesn't want it to stop. North Korea doesn't want it to stop. All the bad guys of the world don't want it to stop. Those of you who are listening to the people that are paid off by the bad actors of this world are doing the bidding of everybody who is anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-West, anti-morality. Please stop falling for it. I don't understand. You are not all this stupid. Come on. Wake up and open your eyes. I don't even know what to say. I feel like I'm talking to children. Stop it. Stop it.
I feel like we woke up in a horrific Serling episode of the Twilight Zone, one that will not stop. Next Stop. This is like the really scarier version of Next Stop Willoughby. And Guy, it's like the same. Listen, if you have to have General Douglas McGregor, who's a proven liar, who's a proven con artist, on your show, John Kiriakou, who was in prison for 30 years, but he's former CIA and he's got sources within the Pentagon. I want to see your sources within the Pentagon. Janitors do not count as sources, okay? Cafeteria workers do not count as sources. And I say that to the people on the left with Barack Ravid, his reporting. You know, whoever his sources are, never right.
With Barack. There is this whole league of failures who have made it into a podcast circle jerk community, who get together to say the same things over and over and basically to reinforce their own lies. The thing is, these people aren't actually good at anything. They're not very smart, but they are being heavily reinforced from the people who see the value that they're producing, and the value that they're producing is chaos. The reason this issue isn't going away, because this isn't the first issue we've had. Right, we had the Women's March, we had BLM, we had the COVID controversies. All of these things have had similar people backing them. All of these things have been pushed by the same state actors. And until this stops providing the value it provides of causing chaos in America, then the people who are backing it will keep backing it. And these idiots will keep going on self-congratulating themselves about having discovered all of the secrets of the cabal.
You see, you just brought it up perfectly. You really did. And this is something I've said to people for years. Listen, if Trump releases the alien files, release the alien files, whatever it is. I can't wait for that leak, Pam Bondi to give out binders for the alien files and everybody to be holding them up. And, it's like you see Yeti and you see all these different, you see these images. And I always say to people, it really is true that people think the more you ask, the smarter you sound. And I've brought this up before. If you ask a question that's almost nearly impossible to answer, or there's always going to be, is the earth flat? Well, no, we have images. Well, those images aren't real. It's a never ending thing. And it's like, yeah, you're forced to deal with these people the larger that movement grows. And as Guy's point, all the movements have gotten together. So this is actually a pretty damn big movement. And I remind people that Hitler got in on what, 33% of the vote? That's not a huge number, go on and guy. Not a huge number. And when you look at a guy like Tucker Carlson combining with the left and getting all these different groups on board, you're talking about a very dangerous number that could cause severe harm in the next election cycle. Think about it. Ross Perot cost us an election and gave us Bill Clinton. It was that easy.
So I think it's important to understand that the problem's not even that you get to that sort of a critical mass, right? I was recently having a conversation about with another analyst that talks about these things. And one of the things that people don't understand is that Russia and China are imperial enemies of the United States. Their objective is to weaken the United States by sowing chaos. Qatar is a different beast altogether. Qatar, Saudi, and Iran. They all have their own agendas, but the Islamic world, or the Islamist world, has an agenda of conquest and colonization, not just weakening. And the confluence of the two different groups who have come together in the axis of authoritarianism, or the axis of totalitarianism, as they're alternatively described, China, Russia, Iran, Qatar, North Korea. China and Russia are seeking to weaken the United States immune system by causing chaos and disunity.
I like how you say it in Australian. It sounds like how Donald Trump says it, China. You know,
China.
That's because he says it right. Everyone makes fun of him for it, but he gets it right.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting thing about what Tucker's doing, really, and this is to me the real danger of someone like this. I'm using Tucker. It's really a lot of these people, but when the
he's the king. Let's be honest. Go on.
There's no question about it.
He's the grand wizard.
That's why I'm using his name.
He is the grand wizard of the crazy clan. I mean, let's be honest.
This is exactly what I'm saying. Is him pulling together the woke right and the fringe left, and all the Jew haters that come from all the different sides of the equation, the Israel haters and the America haters, and this and that. When you're pulling together all of these political ecosystems that have nothing in common except resentment, and he's crystallizing something, as you may have noticed over the course of the last handful of shows. When I say handful, I mean several hundred. It's all Israel all the time. And what he's doing is he's giving everyone a shared villain. And what he's doing when he gives that whole group, the isolationist, the grievance-driven, the anti-institution, the fringe left, the anti-Israel, the this, that, you're not building a governing coalition. You're talking about the 33% that got Hitler in. See, that's the thing. Hitler was a guy who could take over a country and run it. That's not what he's trying to do. That's not what his handlers want him to do. He's building a destabilizing coalition, right? The part that people miss is you don't have to win a national election to do damage. You have to fracture consensus. You have to erode trust in the alliances. You have to weaken America's global posture. You have to make voters cynical and confused and afraid. And you have to convince enough people that leadership abroad is a liability. That's how you make America irrelevant. That's if I am the guys paying Tucker to do whatever he's doing, I'm not paying them so that someone specific will win the election in America. I'm paying him to destroy the West. And that's what he's doing.
I think two things could be true at the same time, Guy. I think what he just said could 100% be true. But I also think we know who Tucker handles as far as in the White House goes. I mean, some might debate that. And so I think those two things could be said at the same time. He could be the handler of a certain candidate. And I mean, listen, we're a show that prides ourselves on not veering into rumor and definitely not into conspiracy. Again, Guy, this is something I don't want to be talking about. I wish I didn't have to be talking about this. But every time Tucker Carlson opens his mouth, a Jewish life is put in danger. I mean, that is plain and simple, and a Christian life. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. If you're a Christian or you're a Jew and Tucker Carlson is opening up his mouth, spreading this chaotic message, your lives, our lives are in danger. For exactly the reasons you guys are talking about. He's putting our lives in danger, first of all, with anti-Semitism, anti-Christianity within our own country, but also at the same time destabilizing us with China and Qatar and Turkey and all these other places. So that's why it is actually really extremely important to talk about, Guy, because this risks people's lives.
Absolutely. And it is fair to also say that Tucker isn't getting instructions saying, I want you to destabilize America, right? That's not the way this works. It's a much more sophisticated game than that. The cards that are being played destabilize America, but they also support Tucker's worldview. The fact that Tucker has someone that he would like to see become the next president doesn't mean that he would support them as because he thinks that they'd be an agent of chaos. He has his own personal agenda, which aligns with the agenda of other people whose agenda might not be as simple as we'd like to choose the next person in the White House. The way that this works, and it sounds very conspiratorial, but this is the way the world has worked for 100 years, right? There is a reason spy movies have always been exciting to people. There's a reason there are so many people that work for different agencies, both on espionage and counter-espionage. This has been happening for a very long time. Influence is not a new thing. The Nazis did it during the Second World War. The Soviet Union were experts at it for the entire Cold War. The Arab world, and particularly Qatar, are brilliant at it. Right. And I think it's important for people to understand that it's one thing to be a conspiracy theorist, like Candace Owens, the mayor, the Egyptian planes, and the Mossad, and the Macron's wife's schlong are all coming for me. That's being a conspiracy theorist. To understand that realpolitik involves conspiracies, involves secret plans that you're not privy to, but that do come out over time and that we do know about, isn't conspiratorial. That's just understanding the reality of the world. And what we know is that there is a bloc that has existed for 100 years that changes players but doesn't change agendas, that doesn't want America to be the most powerful country in the world because they want to be the most powerful country in the world. While they are supporting people like Tucker, while they are supporting the people that are causing chaos inside American politics, they're also building up their armies. They're also building up their economies. They're also building up their foreign investments. They're also building up their control of using the Belt and Road program. This is not a conspiracy. It's China's geopolitical strategy. And
well done.
We don't wake up and realize that, and that President Trump has been pushing back against this for 30 years, and he is the only person that's been in the White House that's tried, then we'll one day wake up and America won't be the most powerful country in the world. It'll be China, and the world will be a very different place. And I'm not sure we want to live in that world.
100%, and extremely well said, Golan. I love what he just talked about. He really summed up a lot in a very short amount of time, and just great work.
Yeah, look, and while I commend you for that, I think that I still feel like what's happening right now isn't trying to get someone into the White House because of a worldview. I feel like if everything I'm looking at points in the same direction for me, the question that seems to be coming up isn't which president do you support, it's which worldview are you advancing. So if getting JD Vance, for instance, into the White House is going to advance the worldview, great. I don't think it's because JD Vance has a worldview and a perspective where you're like, I'm going to follow that guy. I think it's because you recognize that someone, again, for instance, like JD Vance, might be easily manipulatable, might be someone who will go where he needs to go and has no spine and backbone. So for me, Tucker doesn't have to do all the stuff that he's doing to get someone into the White House. There are much different and easier ways than destabilizing the West and destabilizing the allies.
Listen, look no further than the 2016 elections, right? Facebook, I mean, what did Russia spend on Facebook? What was it, 10 grand or 100 grand? And then you get one person to make up a crazy list, and it destroys 4 years of a presidency with the Steele dossier, that leads to everything that actually did destabilize our country. And so you're completely right. It does not, and it doesn't take a lot go on. It doesn't take a lot of money.
Yeah.
So,
and destabilization does not require winning elections. We know that too.
Yeah. Let's move on a little bit. I mean, yeah, but I'm in the same boat with you, Golan. I literally do want to hit people, or I do want to hit people.
I just want to shake them.
Yeah. And, my defense could be shaken baby syndrome, but I'm in the same exact boat with you where you're like looking at this going, how is this even on the airwaves? You're like, in what universe, in what bizarre universe are we listening to this?
Well, there's a fine line, like if you're listening to Tucker and you believe him before, like he's been a guy who's been a voice of the people for a long time, you're listening. And then he starts like, hey, Putin's doing a great job. And, look at how clean the subways are. You're like, wait a minute. Okay, wait. Your spidey sense should be, your spidey sense should be tingling. And then he's like, hey, Iranian president, foreign minister, you guys are awesome. oh, is Israel the problem, Iran? Yeah, okay. And you should be like, what? Wait a minute, what? Like, but this doesn't make any sense. And then every day he does something where your spidey sense should just be going, what the hell's going on here? And at a certain point, you should go, okay, never mind. I guess he's lost the thread. But instead, they're just hanging on. No matter what crazy he's saying, they're just like, sounds good, sounds right. To me, I just cannot fathom it. I do, unless it's just, hey, it's an excuse to hate Jews. Thank God, wait, we're allowed to do it again. Yay, yay, yay. Beyond that, how do you believe it? How do you believe anything that he's saying? It's so
How do you believe
obviously
anything? Any of the,
lies.
I listen. I do think it comes back to the "I just hate Jew" thing. I think that is at the core. If you look at that speech in San Francisco, right, where there was a speaker, and repeat what he said so I don't get it wrong. He said about, it was about taxes, right, and they replaced taxes with Jews, right? So lowering, getting rid of taxes, getting rid of Jews. I believe that was the.
I don't have the text in front of me, but yes, you've got the gist of it. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I want to move on a little bit, Guy, to this Kash Patel thing. So him and Susan Wiles they were being spied on for the better part of 2 years. So they're a year and a month in, and they finally fired uh, 10 of the FBI agents, right? That were part. Was this part of the Mar-a-Lago thing? This was part of a guy. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell the story so I don't sound like my normal?
So the way that it's being reported is that there was a bunch of agents who they finally managed to sort of identify and let go. I think it was 10 or a dozen. It was a really weird story, if you ask me. Basically, because if these agents were doing something that was malicious, malignant, or otherwise against the government, why are they being fired and not charged? Like, if they were doing something as fundamentally wrong as spying on political candidates, that's an absolute abuse not only of the powers that the FBI has, to the going all the way back to the worst days of J. Edgar Hoover and his files, but it's an abuse of a very frayed and very thin trust that still exists between the public and law enforcement. And if they were doing something they weren't supposed to do, they need to be made an example of, and firing people isn't making an example.
Even the way it's being reported, frankly, is strange, because he's saying, "Oh, I lost faith in them," or "I lost what he had a phrase, I lost confidence." That's what it was. I lost confidence in them. Certain people, because of the way it was the Mar-a-Lago thing, by the way, the way they handled the confidential documents, Mar-a-Lago, I lost confidence in them. I feel like their investigative conduct wasn't up to par. It's like it's like a strange, almost like Office Space, like the reports weren't quite filed correctly, sort of thing. But he also mentions the politicization of it. He also mentions all sorts of stuff that feels like it should be more than. And right now, because there isn't any evidence of illegality, they're just calling it controversial conduct or something like that, which technically isn't a crime. But when you're talking about controversial conduct that actually targets a president, that targets a specific political party, that feels like it actually should be a crime when you are part of the FBI. So it's a very strange story. And I guess we got to wait for more to come out as a result of it.
Well, let's hope more comes out about it, because it has to do with Jack Smith giving them the permission to do this,
Yeah.
right?
Well, right. The problem is they don't have any proof beyond any reasonable doubt. Right now, it's just bad optics, and that's the worst thing they can say about it.
Right, but it was also this goes back to how far do they go after Jack Smith? Because what Jack Smith was doing, again, he's going to say was within the law, was within the framework of what he could do, guy, here's the problem: Republicans just don't fight the way the left does. And until we start fighting the way the left does, and I think this is what people's frustrations are with somebody like Pam Bondi, is we're a year and a couple months in and nothing. No prosecutions, no nothing. I mean, yeah, Hillary Clinton's being brought up today, but that's because of the House, and she's being brought up on something. I don't even know what she's being brought up on something about. Obviously, it has ties with Epstein, but it's one of those things. It's performative, but nothing substantive will actually happen from that. And we want to see people being prosecuted.
It's interesting. I was watching a podcast today with Winston Marshall and Raymond Ibrahim. And they were having a discussion about Christianity, which I think is very pertinent to what you're talking about right now. Because Marshall was presenting that Christianity was a religion of peace and that Jesus's teachings were very non-violent and passive. And Ibrahim was teaching that the fact that Christians survive tells you that the teachings of Christianity started from defend the faith. And that whatever's written, defend the faith had to be a key aspect of Christianity, because otherwise there would be no Christians. And I think we have a similar challenge on the conservative side of the political aisle around the world, which is we are not content. We don't want to burn the whole house down. We don't want to burn the system down. We believe in the foundations. We want to fix it. But the degree of care that we take in order to fix it, while there's arsonists trying to set it on fire, means that they keep lighting fires, we keep trying to put them out, and slowly but surely the house gets scorched, singed, and falls apart. We're not actually
exactly
doing anything to push it, to build or change or make a difference. We're afraid of actually engaging in the fight because we think that we're supposed to be passive. Whereas if you understand what Ibrahim was pointing out in that interview, the fact is survival depends on being hostile to people that are hostile to you.
Look, this is 100% right. And to put it in right and left terms, when it comes to lawfare, progressive legal activism is deeply embedded in leftist academia, leftist NGOs, leftist attorney general's offices, leftist civil society groups, and all the rest, right? There's a whole dense infrastructure built for rapid and usually specious litigation. And on the right, they're like, we want to emphasize, restraint and institutional continuity. I mean, I guess conservatism is about conserving. So they're like, let's just keep things as a status quo. Let's really emphasize textualism. We don't want to stretch this for the political gain. Judah, if there's anything you've taught me over the course of this show, it's whenever I say, slippery slope, us doing this will eventually lead to them doing it. And you're like, they're already doing it. They'll do it the minute they take power. And at first, it took me a while to really come around to it, because I am someone who says, why would we want to escalate into the worst version of the world? But when the enemies have already said, we're launching all the arrows, and you're like, the arrows can hurt people. It's like they're on the way to you. So you may as well get some in return. I think that's probably the number one thing that I take away from this. And it seems like the politicians on the right haven't taken it away yet. So someone has to shake them too. Judah, maybe you could do it.
Well, no, I had this discussion on The World According to Ben Stein last night with Peter Roth, who I have a great amount of respect for, who doesn't want Republicans for the same reason as you to get rid of the filibuster, right? For the Save America Act. And I was like, listen, if you're ever going to use something, now is the time. This is about voter registration, that 80% of voter ID that at least 80% of Americans agree on. I've actually never seen an issue that so many Americans agree on that both sides will not handle. I've never seen one issue that everybody agrees that you need, that their representatives refuse to pass. So yeah, listen, if John Thune does what we all think he's going to do, he's a joke. He's an absolute joke who's not going to resign. He's got no reason to resign. There's no votes to get him to resign. And we're really screwed. And this is an extremely dangerous thing. So yeah, go on. Do I want to see certain things broken? Of course not. I never have. It's not what I'm like. I'm very similar to you in that way. But when we've witnessed them break every thread that holds this country together in the last 10 years, if that means John Thune passing a bill that could potentially save our electoral system, 100% go for it. 100% that this is the time to act. There has never been more of a time to act with the filibuster than it is right now.
Yeah, well, I think it's well put. And I think this idea that we're hanging on to norms while the other side has been abandoning and chucking them into a ditch over and over again in order to gain power, in order to gain leverage, in order to be able to pull the levers of government and everything else, while we're over here going, if we just don't give in to it, then maybe it won't happen. It's basically us just closing our eyes and going la, 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 as the monsters encroach upon us, because we're thinking if we don't open our eyes and see them, then they can't hurt us. They can, and they are, and they will. So again, this is the lesson I have learned over the course of, what are we on, episode 189. Over the course of almost 200 episodes, this has probably been my number one lesson, and it's about time everyone else started listening.
Well, thank you. I'm honored and privileged that I have shown you my son the correct way. Guy, I want to just talk about something very quickly, and it's because I don't care what you have to say about what I just spoke about. But it's this really interesting thing. The U.S. women's hockey team is debating whether they should go to the White House. I have news for the women's hockey team. President Trump doesn't want you at the White House. Nobody really cares. This is like the WNBA. They're restructuring this deal right now, and it's a losing proposition because they don't make money. This costs the NBA. The WNBA costs the NBA hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Nobody gives a crap, I'm sorry, about women's hockey. And listen, if you have daughters and you think, God bless your daughters, okay? It doesn't mean that these opinionated hags need to be at the White House. And Guy, that's just my thought on that. I'm like looking at them going, Trump does not want them there.
Look, you know what? It's a tragedy that's been plaguing women's sport for far too long, which is that they've made it about something other than sport.
Well, because nobody else would watch. Guy, let me ask you.
Women's sport was not a category that was created for viewability. It was a category that was created so that women could enjoy the game.
Except for tennis.
The competition where women and men competed together, women were generally unable to compete with men, and it was dangerous in many cases, which is why men don't compete in women's competitions until very recently when the world went mad. Right? The reason for women's sport was because women were also passionate about sport, and that was a good thing. And then the radical feminists got a hold of it and decided that it had to be a political issue and it had to be about a pay. When women's sport started, everybody understood. People go to watch the men's games because that's where the hits are harder. The people are faster. The hits are harder. Everything's more exciting. I'm sorry. If they want to watch women's sports, there was gymnastics and people went and watched that for different reasons. What can I say? But once it became political and team after team of national level representatives started turning it into this cudgel to attack the nation that they're representing. First of all, the thing that went first was sportsmanship, and then it's no longer really exclusively for women. So really all it is a bunch of, to steal a word from Ben Shapiro, which he's bringing back, which I like, caterwauling, whining leftists who are trying to find a platform to make a bunch of noise.
But listen, this is the only way they could be relevant, right? It's not going to be because of economics. It's not going to be because of interest. It's not going to be because of attention. It's only going to be because of politics and woke nonsense.
I also have to say that there have been a huge number of incredible female athletes that have worked their asses off to get to these elite levels. And I remember with the women's soccer team, I can't remember the name of the athlete, but there were three women on the American women's soccer team who, when they turned the team political, there were three athletes that refused.
Megan Rapinoe, is that how you pronounce her name?
Megan Rapinoe led the charge into politics. She put on her colored hair, put on her leftist hat, and charged straight into politics. But there were three players, for example, that refused to kneel during the national anthem because they were proud to represent America, and they stood up to the intimidation. I don't believe that of the 11 players, I don't believe that 11 of them were into that stuff. I think that it's important to recognize at the same time that team sports means pressure coming from other parts of the team to compete. And it's the people that it hurts first are the dedicated female athletes that just wanted to go and represent their countries and do what so many of us wanted to when we were kids and dreamt of being Olympians, which was be the best and make our country proud.
By the way, you're not arguing something different than what we're saying. The ones you're talking about when Hope Solo and Carly Lloyd and whatever her name was, the Jackson Hinkle? No, something Hinkle, whatever Hinkle. Like those three, yeah, I get it. But they refused. They didn't want to wear the pride jerseys. They wanted to just play the game and all of that. Great, that's all great. But I'm not criticizing female athletes. I have a female daughter. Geez, I have a daughter.
How come we always have? By the way, this is how you know something's a fraud. Just in life, I'm going to give you a good rule for something being a fraud. If you have to pre-qualify it, okay, you should never have.
What's my pre-qualify?
I have a daughter.
No. This is, you didn't let me finish. You don't know. What
I know, but I'm not using you. I'm glad you just said it because That's always the statement that people make is, I have a daughter, so this is extremely important to me.
Right. As the father of daughters, I
Right, as
want
the
to speak
father
to
of a
yeah.
daughter, and I
Yeah,
don't
right, exactly.
care that you're the father of a daughter.
Yeah, no. In this
It
particular
means,
case, that wasn't where I was going.
yeah.
I was
But I
going
know,
to
I'm just
say,
glad you said it. Now,
yeah,
anyways, yeah.
I've got a daughter who is strong as hell and can beat the hell out of a lot of guys. And I'm totally cool if she wants to be an athlete, if she wants to be a singer, if she wants to be whatever she wants to be. I'm not criticizing good, bad, or indifferent. What I'm saying is that the sports teams, like the WNBA, I used to cover the WNBA as a reporter, and it was in Arizona. The Phoenix Mercury. I loved the girls there. I used to go out with all the lesbians afterwards to Lori Petty's bar, A League of Our Own. I mean, I got stories for days.
We don't need
So
to hear them, but
it's
thank you.
not about, man, you would love it. But it's not even, it's not about Stevie Nicks was there sometime. Anyway, the point is that it's not about whether they're cool. It's not about whether they're nice. It's not about whether they're even good athletes. The point is that is not what people are coming to see. They have less audience. They lose money for the sport. And it's great that those women who also have to have a second job, right? Because this is a hobby, have an outlet to do that. And people can go see them if they want to. What I'm saying is for them to suddenly think that this is the way I'm going to get attention is by wearing a pride jersey or by talking about politics or by doing all of this stuff. It's not about whether they're great athletes. It's about the fact that they're overreaching, that nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Nobody wants to hear what Mark Ruffalo has to say either, because he's an actor. He's a meat puppet. He's a meat sack that other people have to write dialogue for, and other people have to tell him how to step and how to move. So for him to think, I have a brain in my head, it's like the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. Nobody
By the
wants
way,
to
I'm
hear it.
just smiling at the thought of the U.S. women's hockey team being in front of President Trump. That would be like the most classic thing of all time. Like, I'm proud. I don't even think he would have. I wouldn't know who the speechwriter would be for what they would tell him what to say. I mean, that would be one of the most comical events of all time.
But just compare it for a moment to the men's team, right? The men's team, the only thing we know about them from their performance on the field was that they're winners, and that some of them have daughters that were important enough that when they won, they went to bring their family. I think that was one of the things that really made people fall in love with that team. The fact that they went and they brought their kids, because people like watching sports with their family. It's something that connects people. At the State of the Union, Trump spent almost 10 minutes talking about them. The only thing that they did was look embarrassed, make gestures of gratitude, and be moved by the occasion. They didn't didn't waive their politics. You don't know which of them were Republicans, which of them were Democrats, which of them were LGBTQ, who believes in Black Lives Matter. I have no idea who on that team believes what, because they understood that what it was about was them being triumphant Americans, and that was their only job in the room.
Yeah, I just want to say this, though, because I want to move on quickly, is this: the cream rises to the top in sports. And that's just the reality. I love watching women's tennis because for a long time, the personalities were absolutely amazing. We were blessed growing up that our tennis stars were insane. I mean, you had Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe, you had Andre Agassi, you had all of these. I mean, It's like, listen, what created the NBA was a race war, right? It was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. David Stern built it beautifully. It was East Coast versus West Coast, right? He did a remarkable job. And then just everything was based
Still
on
my favorite video game of all time, by the way.
Was what?
Magic versus Bird.
Yeah, I didn't. There was a video game called Magic versus. What was it on the Atari? Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. And then the men's game became boring, and it became just like lack of personality. And the females have so much more personality that I'm more inclined to watch female tennis players than I am watching men's tennis players hit a serve that goes 150 miles an hour. So these things do change. Listen, Lindsey Vonn has a great personality, so people were rooting for her. Regardless, I couldn't name you an American male skier, but I can name you Lindsey Vonn, not just because of the sex tape. Okay? Personalities at the end of the day rise up. And Caitlin Clark rose up.
Right.
So that's just how the world works. It's capitalism via personality. And this idea that we need to force
WWF was the most honest sport.
Yeah, I like that capitalism of personality. And I'm very proud of myself for that one. And so this isn't a knock on female, whatever. It really isn't. It's just they're boring. It's absolutely boring.
This isn't a knock on them. They're boring.
No, they are. I mean, listen. What made the USA hockey team interesting is the Hughes brothers, are all these different stories. It's what makes sports interesting. Listen, if there was no gambling, nobody would be watching the NBA. Okay, the only thing the NBA has as its saving grace is gambling addiction. If there was no gambling, you would have nobody watching NBA games. Their numbers are so bad.
Man, Guy, you're Australian. I don't know if this resonates with you at all, but I grew up watching the NBA. Just a very, very brief little anecdote here, but my whole life I was a Phoenix Suns season ticket holder. Later, I got obsessed with the Utah Jazz for whatever reason, and the LA Lakers. And when I was in the army, I was in Israel, and I would sneak out of my barracks when it came to finals time illegally. Sneak into the officers' quarters to watch the games, risking going to military prison. That's how obsessed I was, and how the mighty have fallen today. It's so depressing to me because it used to be so exhilarating to watch that sport, and it feels like now there's just very little to it.
Well, Guy really can't relate because he has cricket and rugby, and
you would be
nobody.
Surprised. When I was growing up, we used to have our basketball cards were NBA cards.
You had Andrew Gaze, famous Australian basketball player.
Have Andrew Gaze, but
and the guy from the Bulls.
About the Australian,
That's right.
No one cared about the Australian basketball when we were growing up in the 90s in Australia.
Luke, what was his name? The guy from the Bulls, Luke. The Australian. How do you not know this guy? He played for the Chicago Bulls
with Jordan.
With Jordan, yeah.
I'm just blanking on his name.
It doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. We didn't care about the Australians. We grew up again with Larry Bird, Michael Jordan. We grew up with with American basketball teams and American players, American basketball cards, and American basketball games. Right? Yeah. Again, America was an empire of culture, and Australia was a vassal state.
Thank you for your commentary, Guy Goldstein. Greatly appreciated.
Luke Longley.
Luke Longley. Thank you. Luke Longley.
Was he the first Australian?
No, Andrew Gaze was the first. Andrew Gaze was one of the first. Listen, when I lived in Israel, there was nothing I enjoyed more than watching, first it was Nadav Hennefeld play for Connecticut, and then Daron Sheffer played for Connecticut. And they've paved the way, then, Omri Cosby, and then they've paved the way for right now, Denny Avida. So it's but anyways, I want to move on to the last topic. Okay, but let's just finish this up. Okay, at the end of the day, personality is everything. Image is everything. And most people don't realize this. Andre Agassi was bald when they were doing those commercials. He wore a hairpiece for the Image is Everything campaign. He pulled a Guy Goldstein. It went really quick.
Hey, this isn't a hairpiece. They're all real, all four of them.
It's like Homer Simpson, just those three, just curving over the top.
Nobody ever wants to make fun of anybody that's bald or has some sort of condition, because it's like you don't want to be like, you shouldn't have made fun of me when your hair is gone. So Guy, you absolutely look beautiful. Your hair is plush.
I am exceptional at camera angles.
Yes.
But by the way, it is important to note, just because I was an Agassi fan, he wasn't totally bald. He was bald on top, and then the rest was like mullet style down.
Yeah.
So he looked like the bad guy from Last Action Hero.
Style.
Yeah, it was bald in the front, party in the back. Okay.
That's right.
Let's move on to the title of the show, which I just love this thing. So there are contradictory reports on the indirect talks going on with Israel. And I was talking about this on Truth Social, and we're going to make a post about this. And you know what Steve Witkoff? I finally realized what Steve Witkoff is. God, and I wrote down the name of the movie before, and it was with Bill Murray, right? The spy was it? What was it called? The spy who knew, the Bill Murray spy movie. I'm totally blank.
Knew too little.
Yeah, the man who knew too little, right? What was that? What was it called?
Depending on which movie you're talking about.
Yeah. It was the man. It was where Peter Gallagher paid for his idiot brother, to go to the dinner, the mystery dinner, the mystery murder thing, and it turned into a real murder.
The Man Who Knew Too Little.
The man who knew too little. And I'm
Yeah.
convinced like that was like Steve Witkoff with Donald Trump. He's like, we got to send Witkoff somewhere. Let's just, let's just send them with Kushner, telling him, yeah, it's like, and all of a
It's
sudden,
just dinner for schmucks 2.0.
that might be an even better one. And you're having these indirect conversations, and and you watch Iran using Tucker Carlson pretty much talking points. It's absolutely wild. And while we have so much of our military over there, and it's like, come on, let's this is getting tedious already.
Yeah, I mean, the indirect, first of all, Guy, help me out here. You're an expert in all things, as Judah likes to tell us. What does it mean to have indirect talks? Tell our audience. What does that mean?
Indirect talks is a little bit like Chinese whispers.
Keep going. I'm already in love with
Iranians
this.
in one room and Americans in another room, and a Bahraini or an Omani or a Swiss shuffle man who goes from one room and says, the Iranians said no. And the Americans said, well, we said yes. All right, well, I'm going to shuffle back to the other room. The Americans said yes, and the Iranians said no. And they shuffle back, and this person goes back and forth trying to find a way to convince people that it won't sit in the same room together, that they should somehow reach an agreement on existential questions. And that this is in any way a serious attempt.
So it's smoke and mirrors, basically. If you're not willing to negotiate directly.
There's no smoke, there's no mirrors.
Right.
Separate stalls in a bathroom.
It's just stalling.
Pass the paper,
Speaking of stalls in the bathroom.
So just to recap what you just said, it's they never actually meet and sit down and talk to each other.
It's all through media.
They actively refuse to sit in the same room.
Yes.
Right. So
Iran, by the way, not because of America. Iran has said, we will negotiate. We refuse direct negotiation. Oman has to sit in between us. The IAEA has, and they just have to shuttle messages back and forth like a game of telephone. That's
and Oman
exactly
is, just for the record, is in a sense a proxy of Iran. I mean, they're extremely close. So, Guy, I jokingly say this to my friend Peter Roth, who's on Al Jazeera. And it's sort of the same Al Jazeera Arab, where he says something and then it gets translated. For all we know, the Oman people, because they're not fans of America, are walking to Iran going, this Witkoff guy, quite the suit he's got on today. We have zero idea if they're actually communicating anything of seriousness, because it's a whole thing is a joke.
Well, this is why there are mixed messages. Yes. There are mixed reports, because first of all, nobody knows. Second of all, there was no real negotiation. Third of all, neither side has there is actually no viable meeting ground between the two positions. The American position is you will not have the sorts of weapons that can destroy the world, and the Iranian position is yes, we will. There is no middle ground. There used to be an old political comic that. I think it was of the Iranians and Benjamin Netanyahu, in actual fact, where Jimmy Carter was in. No, it wouldn't have been Jimmy Carter. It was Bill.
We talked about this on the show yesterday. It was John Kerry. Can't you meet them halfway?
That's the one. John Kerry in the middle. Can't you make them in the middle?
Who looks like Maniac Cop with all that plastic surgery.
But there is.
Your references today are on fire. This is great.
America's position isn't one of negotiation. It's demanding their surrender. And Iran's position is we don't surrender. All the rest is just games.
Iran's position, as it has been for quite a long time, is buying time and extracting concessions. That's it. They're asking if they can. These are the two simultaneous objectives. If they can keep developing their nuclear infrastructure without being hit militarily, or whatever it is that they're building up, their missiles, their this, their that, while they're saying, okay, let's get some sanctions relief. If there's any frozen assets, let's get them unfrozen. Economic levers, let's loosen that. As long as they don't have to do anything while they're going through that process and time is on their side, it's hostage diplomacy.
Guy, before you go, Guy, I think the perfect thing for Trump to do, and I'm being dead serious right now, would be, you want real negotiation? There's an oil field. Go Iron Eagle on them. Take out the oil field first, and then say, are you not ready to get into the room with Witkoff and Kushner? You're not ready yet? Okay, here's the next oil field. And just keep on going down the oil fields. Keep on one at a time, Guy. Keep pegging off a different one. Take out the airfields. Whatever you have to do.
The Iranians, there's one little island that if you take it out, their entire economy collapses, or whatever semblance of an economy they have left completely collapses. It's there's the reason that it hasn't been done, and the reason the Israelis didn't do it during the 12-day war was that I believe that the president has a belief that after the regime falls, if the economy can be quickly resuscitated, then you avoid the chaos, and he's not necessarily wrong. I think the bigger challenge is that this time has brought Iran Iran has mobilized a lot of resources to rebuilding its rocket stockpiles. They've been resupplied with radars and various anti-aircraft technology by China, and some symbolic gestures from Russia. The stalling only means that the current assessments are that Iran's restored its pre-July or pre-June missile stockpiles. Now, that doesn't mean it's restored its ability to actually execute things in the exact same way. We don't know. Now, the other thing is, and I think this is really important, war is a game of learning, and they've reshuffled and rearranged their anti-aircraft infrastructure since Israel walked all over them during the last war. That means that we now have to gather more intelligence. We now have to come up with a new way of outsmarting them, and they are constantly adapting to what they already know is our way of doing things. Time does still benefit them. We needed to buy enough time to get as much force as we needed into the region to act. Cannot give them more time than we needed. Any additional time we spend gives them advantage.
Well, and this is exactly why the contradictory statements game is so useful for them, because we know this. There was an AP article that I thought was really interesting, where they were breaking down what they were saying in their native tongue to their domestic audience, talking about how they're never going to abandon enrichment. They will resist any compromise. They will never do anything that will undercut sovereignty, like all of this stuff, while at the same time, through the foreign mediators and this indirect nonsense game they're playing, talking about how they're serious about peace, and they're serious about disarmament, and they're serious about sanctions relief and all this stuff. The contradictions are deliberate. So this is why you will hear in the press simultaneously, talks were productive, there's significant progress, there's major gaps, there's no deal, and talks will continue, because the longer they can do that, to Guy's point, the longer they can continue just stretching this time out. The cycle continues, and it allows them to build up whatever they need to build up in the interim.
And remember that they're getting supplied with intelligence from Chinese satellites that are giving them real-time positioning on American assets in the theater. So they have better intelligence than they had last time, and they are not. This is not going to be a surprise. There'll be a suddenness to it, but it's not a surprise because everyone's waiting for it.
And that's why that thing you talked about, Judah, 2 days ago, that 5-day window that, at least in theory, America has to kind of seal some deals, is so important, because it's not a surprise attack. This is something where everybody it's like all the chess pieces are on the board, everyone knows where they are, and now go.
And there are reports that, like I've been saying all along, there are real reports that Trump wants Israel to act first, which is something that I have speculated, just rumor though. But I almost want to name the show tonight. It's like, I heard it from, you remember, we all know the REO Speedwagon song, heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who. Like, this is like, heard it from a friend. This is like, heard it from an interpreter who heard it from an interpreter. Like that. That's what this reminds me of. And somebody is Jency brought up. Yeah, it's like the game of telephone, like I said, but it's like you heard it from this is like wild what we're witnessing, just to appease the what our country has become. And I'm tired of it. You want to call me a war hawk? Call me a war hawk. Call me whatever you want. But this needs to be done. The Iranian regime needs to be taken out. And sorry?
Red, white, and blue.
I want to watch Iron Eagle.
I own Iron Eagle. Nice, just so you know, nice. If I ever died and you saw what movies I own, on my Amazon Prime, I own like the Delta Force, Iron Eagle, Cobra. I own if Missing in Action wasn't on every streaming site, I would own Missing in Action. anything goal line
That would
globe
have
is
been fun had he just said Kushner, Witkoff, and Chuck Norris.
yeah.
That would have been a negotiation. Just get
You
the
love that.
Expendables to sit in. It's a great idea.
And but that's in my and by the way, I realize like after my talk about women's sports, every show we do, I lower my odds of ever getting a date. So the women's sports thing officially takes me out of of anything. I just want to get to this one last thing, which is I love Elon Musk. I really do. And it's the same reason I love Trump is because they look at the world very differently. They're not, I don't want to say as other people, but they look at the world and they have a power position to look at things and say what we're all thinking, right? So he's calling out Los Angeles for the train systems, because he's all into the tunnels, and that is one of his big things, and about the fact that it costs $25 million per mile to build the light rail in Los Angeles. And I live in Los Angeles. It is the dumbest thing in the world. You have to train people 100 years to get on a train. Okay, that's how long that people will need to be trained in Los Angeles go on. By the time they build this thing, they'll have to start from scratch and rebuilding what they had started in the beginning because it was already broken. This is like one scam after another, and I'm happy that he's calling out this scam because that's all it is.
Well, yeah,
Oh, and Steve Hilton is ahead in the race for governor.
That's right. That's been actually that is very interesting because he right now there just was a poll right now and he is way out in front. But look, the thing about it's not just the trains. Everything in Los Angeles seems to be corrupt. Bill Maher has a saying that he uses regularly on his show, which is, I know in government, the only way to transfer funds is with a leaky bucket, but we don't have a bucket. We just have a handle when it comes to Los Angeles. And I'm stealing it. To me, this is exactly right. Everything we're seeing from money that came after the fires that was supposed to rebuild the Palisades, gone. The money that was supposed to go to build a train, gone. Money that was being raised for different communities, different people in need, gone. This is happening over and over and over again. The taxes go up, funding measures are approved, bonds are issued, money is collected, and then nothing happens. I used to live in LA. I was waiting for the light rail. I have been gone for a very long time. I am still waiting for the light rail. You're still there. Good luck.
I remember when I first moved out here, Guy, they used to say to me, downtown, it's going to be the place. It's going to be like they're going to get rid of
I had friends who went down there and bought lofts because they said it.
Yeah, they were going to. This is 23 years ago, Guy. It still looks like Skid Row for the most part. I live in a place where across the street they like to call it the Arts District. The only thing artful about it is the way the homeless sleep at night is quite the portrait. There is literally zero art district across the street from me. And Golan knows exactly where I live. It's a nice area, but because it's by a train or a bus line, it's absolutely destroyed the area. Just so people understand this in life, if you live in an area where there's a bus stop, so they're building through Beverly Hills, right? Yeah. They're building through Santa Monica. If you live anywhere within the proximity of where a train could stop or sleep at night, you will have homeless people in your area. That is just the great rule in life. That is the danger, especially in Los Angeles, where we're understaffed police-wise. This is it already looks like, Escape from LA. It will truly become Escape from LA at a certain point.
By the way, do you know this? Do you know that there were communities and with a little extra cash on hand that went to the government and said there should be no light rail or train stop here? Century City, for instance, it went so far out of their way. They were like, we got high-rise buildings here. We don't want tunneling under the high-rise building. They used all these excuses. It was structural. It was this, it was that. They didn't want a train stop near their buildings or near their nice malls or whatever it was, because they didn't want people sleeping on the sidewalk or in the bus station or in the train station right outside their offices. This was a thing in LA.
I think I understand the solution to the LA's problems. They are clearly looking to import 2 million Gazans because this is a problem that Gaza's already solved for. It's cheap tunnels under buildings, no worries.
Yeah, that's what we need in the greater. But I do think the bigger story is Steve Hilton. ahead in the governor's race. It gives you a little bit of hope. He's ahead of Swalwell. He's ahead of a lot of them. I mean, but it's like 17% or 11%. I don't exactly know how the governor's race works in California since it's been so long since we've actually had. I don't even remember how a ballot would look with a Republican's name on it. I mean, like last year we finally had a senator for the first time in over 20 years on the ballot, just on the ballot. We finally had.
We can be real and say that right now there's that poll that said he's ahead in the, which is very interesting because he's a Republican, and I don't think California's elected a Republican since like 2006, right?
Yeah, Arnie was.
Yep, but it's been a while, is my point. And it's a blue state. It's emphatically blue. So right now, that particular poll said that, and that's nice, and we'll see what happens with it. But it's a real tight race right now, and there's a cluster of Democrats that are hanging on. Swalwell in there, which is insane to me. Steyer's in there. There's even some Republicans that are other Republicans that are very high at the top. So it is still very much a knife fight.
Yeah. Guy, final word on that, since you are
I'm just regretting the fact that Arnie isn't making a political comeback. The campaign writes itself.
I got to say,
I'll be back. I'm back. Yeah.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah.
Well, I think he exceeded. Well, no, because you can California. You could do two terms.
There are term limits for.
No, there are term limits in California, but you could come back. Like Jerry Brown came back, Moonbeam came back. Who predicted the 1,000-year drought. Now all I see in California is a 1,000-year rainstorm. That's literally all we have here, and because these D-bags decided they want to build the rail to nowhere. They've been building that train to Vegas, Golan. I mean, not to Vegas, to San Francisco since I got here. I don't even think they've laid down track. I don't even think they've laid down a pipe.
It's absolutely. By the way, I just looked it up because something didn't sound right to me. Schwarzenegger cannot run again because the California governors are limited by law to 2 terms total, regardless of whether they're consecutive or not. And the reason why Jerry Brown was able to do it is because when he first ran, it was before the term limits existed. So Schwarzenegger's out.
He was grandfathered in, and plus It wasn't like Schwarzenegger was the bee's knees of Republican governors. I mean, he was truly a Republican name only. Let's not forget this was when he was married to a Kennedy. Okay, so let's not have revisionist history on Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was here at that point. Okay, I've had enough of you guys today. I'm just done with both of you. You've ruined my life.
Was it because I sang REO Speedwagon? Is that what did it?
Well, yeah. I mean, no, you did it fairly well, and
Thank you.
Because the local politics segment turned into an absolute farce.
But at the end of the day, I just like this. If you want to listen to, if you want to get suggestions about the world or what we're facing, I don't think there's any, whether it's the dude who's not here, whether it's Guy Goldstein, whether it's Golan, I trust your assessment. I mean, just the fact that you're able to explain what would we call the episode? What indirect negotiations are. I learned something, and I think we offer something to people by saying what actually indirect negotiations are, because you hear this term and nobody says, what exactly is that? What exactly is an indirect conversation? And think about all the things that could get lost in translation in those indirect conversations. So I really appreciate, so for the people out there, listen to you guys. Don't listen to Tucker Carlson. I mean, I want you to just think about this for 1 second. Tucker Carlson's talking about Israel being the most murderous state. This is a guy that shakes hands with Vladimir Putin, goes on this mission to resuscitate his image and to resuscitate Russia, and does the whole, like the movie The Interview, where he finds the one shop of baked goods and talks about and you should be scared to talk about Israel because implying Bibi will have you killed. Putin, we know, has his political rivals killed. This is not something we could, speculate. We know that he will use. I mean, how many Russian oligarchs have fallen off of buildings? Okay, you just don't fall out of it.
Accidentally swallowed poison, or maybe a number of things. Yeah, oopsies.
Right, but that we know. But it was like it's like he fell out of the middle of the building. You know, he was in the middle of his apartment, and somehow that oligarch managed to find his way out onto the cement. You know, so if you're listening to Tucker Carlson and you decide to go down that rabbit hole, God bless your soul, man. It needs a lot of saving. Your head needs a lot of saving. And any Republicans that are not distancing themselves from this craziness, screw you. You're causing extreme danger to our country and to the people in our country, internationally and domestically. So screw you. And John Thune, screw you too for not getting this SAVE Act passed with the filibuster. Enough with these excuses. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of like us people not speaking out loud. You know, sorry to go on one more second. Just indulge me for a second. Go on. Who's more scared to talk out loud, us or Tucker Carlson? It's people like us that are more scared of it. Okay, Tucker Carlson has nothing to be worried about with speaking out loud. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He gets saluted for it. Us getting $7,000 checks, you know, synagogues being burned, Jews being killed on the street, Christians being slaughtered across America. Really, and Tucker Carlson's life is at risk. That's how crazy it is. Am I wrong, or am I? Sorry for the rant.
No, not only are you not wrong, you're so right. And it's when you look at what's happening with Tucker and his entire ecosystem, it's very easy to spin lies and to find villains and to point fingers and all of that. The real danger comes when, like you said, every time he opens his mouth, he puts Jews and Christians and Americans in danger. And if you're speaking up on behalf of the Jews and the Christians, the Americans that he is vilifying, that right now, when you have a group of people who, for whatever reason, have just blindly followed him down the primrose path, in some cases, some people that are not well that are following him down the primrose path, the danger is in speaking up and saying, can we talk about the truth? Because people like that, the truth is anathema to them. It is dangerous to them. So when they lash out, as we've seen, in violent ways. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and somebody brought up in the Rumble rants, it'd be great to make AI videos with Tucker trashing Islam. You know, I'm not exactly sure why people haven't done more of those. Just fake audios of Tucker trashing Islam. Guy, final thoughts, and we got to sign off.
Do I get final thoughts? I want a final thought.
No,
I want a final thought too.
My final thoughts are still that I pray for the safety of the people of Iran, of Israel, and those American troops that are in the field at the moment. This may or may not be the weekend. The negotiations may or may not have staved it off or accelerated it. And if something happens, may God protect all of the people on our side.
Well said. Go on, since you want a final thought.
Yeah, no, because the guy said something really profound and important, and I just want to point out that
he does it a lot.
Yeah,
it's
really,
a problem.
It's really
a problem we're having.
But I'm going to say something that is even more important, which is that according to the latest reports, the Warner Brothers takeover by Paramount seems to be favoring Paramount over Netflix. Netflix has 4 days to counter, 4 business days to counter, and I'm watching with bated breath because I'm hoping Paramount takes this thing over. I think we're all thinking about the people at Warner Brothers these days.
Well, you know, Netflix is praying because they're headed to the White House. And
they're literally at the White House
today. White House, right? And I'd love to see him like just begging, and Trump being like, Susan Rice, you know, like.
By the way, the funniest. So I don't know, for those of you who don't know, Trump basically said Susan Rice is on the board there. There's a former Obama advisor, and he was like, "If you don't get rid of Susan Rice, you're going to pay the consequences." I think that was an exact quote. But my favorite part about what I'm just talking about is this news broke less than an hour ago. Ted Sarandos, is already at the White House, did not know that Warner Brothers was going to change their mind and say that Paramount's takeover bid is superior and Netflix has to respond now. So he's at the White House thinking it was a done deal when this report happened. And now he's just in these meetings and he has no idea how to deal with it. It's wonderful.
And that's the art of the deal. Okay. On that note, thank you both. I want to thank everybody that's been helping and following and all that stuff. Don't forget to give us that 5-star review, even if you have to use Google to figure out how to do it. That's how difficult they make it to give that 5-star review. So thank you for all the support. You can find us everywhere at thedailycheatsheet.com. That's thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.